Have you ever felt like people don't really notice you, or like your voice doesn't carry the weight it should? Have you ever wondered why some people naturally earn respect, attention, and trust, while others are easily overlooked? The truth is, a strong personality isn't about being loud, flashy, or trying to impress anyone. It's about how you handle yourself, the choices you make, and the habits you practice every single day. It's about having control over your emotions, standing firm in what you believe, showing up even when it's hard, and refusing to let fear or doubt define you. In this video, you're going to discover simple, practical steps to grow inner strength, boost your confidence, and build a mindset that makes you unstoppable. You'll learn how to act with intention, protect your self-worth, and turn challenges into opportunities to improve yourself. By the end, you'll see exactly how to build a personality that commands respect, inspires trust, and helps you live with confidence and purpose every day. This is the moment to take control of who you are. Chapter 1. Build inner strength by choosing what challenges you daily. Many people talk about wanting a strong personality, but they wait for someone to push them. They hope strength will appear on its own. It never does. Strength grows when you choose the situations that stretch you. Strength grows when you stop avoiding the things you know you need to face. A strong personality is not something you are born with. It is something you build piece by piece through the choices you make every day. Today you can decide to become someone who grows through challenge instead of running from it. That single decision can change the quality of your life. Inner strength begins in ordinary moments. It grows when you wake up and choose actions that demand effort. It grows when you tell yourself to stop escaping from the small tasks that train your discipline. You can create a stronger version of yourself by choosing the uncomfortable path instead of the easy one. You do not need huge battles to grow. You just need the courage to face small challenges consistently. Every time you choose something that pushes you a little further than yesterday, you shape a stronger personality. Many people avoid hard things because they fear failure, they fear pain, they fear judgment. But avoiding what scares you makes your personality weaker. When you avoid challenge, you teach your mind to retreat. You teach your habits to collapse when pressure rises. A strong personality grows when you make the decision to confront discomfort. You might feel fear. You might feel uncertainty. You might feel tired. But you act anyway. That action creates strength. That action gives you a winning spirit. There is something powerful about doing a task that you usually avoid. When you face it directly, you begin to trust yourself more. You show your mind that you can rely on your own action. Confidence grows when your behavior matches your highest standards. Confidence grows when you do the things you promised yourself. You do not gain strength by talking about your goals. You gain strength by taking action on them. A strong personality is built through self-respect, and self-respect increases every time you choose a challenging action that improves you. When you avoid challenge, your self-respect drops because you know you are capable of more. You know you are choosing comfort over growth. But when you take the harder road, you feel a quiet sense of progress inside. That feeling becomes a foundation you can stand on. Challenge is not the enemy. Challenge is a daily training ground. Think of your daily life. You have tasks that drain your energy. You have problems that test your patience. You have goals that require effort. Every single one of these moments can develop your strength. If you choose them instead of avoiding them, you become mentally tougher. When you become mentally tougher, you develop a personality that others trust and respect. Choosing challenge does not mean punishing yourself. It means picking the option that helps you grow. It means saying yes to activities that build your skill. It means showing discipline even when you would rather relax. It means pushing your limits for your own progress. This is how you build a personality that remains stable under pressure. This is how you gain a strong presence that others notice without you saying a word. Strength also grows through simple daily decisions. You can start by waking up on time. You can start by completing the work you keep postponing. You can start by speaking in the moments where you usually stay silent. You can start by saying no to things that waste your time. These small choices shape your identity. These choices tell your mind who you are becoming. You are building a personality that handles challenges with calm and clarity. There will be days when you feel unmotivated. There will be days when you do not feel ready. Strength is built on those days. Anyone can grow when they feel powerful. The real test is what you do when you feel low. A strong personality comes from doing the work even when your feelings are not supporting you. You build inner strength by choosing the right action instead of the easy emotion. That is what separates a strong character from a weak one. Human psychology is simple in this area. Your mind grows through exposure. When you avoid tough situations, your mind becomes fragile. When you expose yourself to challenge, your mind becomes flexible and steady. The more you face hard things, the less they scare you. You do not remove fear by hiding from it. You remove fear by walking through it again and again, until it loses its power. You can train this every day. Choose conversations that make you uncomfortable but help you grow. Choose responsibilities that stretch your abilities. Choose habits that increase your discipline. Choose goals that push your limits. When you do this daily, you become someone who welcomes growth. You become someone who looks at difficulty and says, "I can handle this." That mindset is the heart of a strong personality. Inner strength also grows when you keep your word. When you give your commitment to something and you follow through, you build trust in yourself. People with weak personalities often break promises to themselves. They quit early. They avoid work. They distract themselves. They give up when things get hard. But when you keep your own word, you build an internal structure that does not collapse under pressure. That structure becomes a major part of your personality. Your daily choices are the building blocks of the person you become. Every time you choose challenge over comfort, you add a new layer of strength. Every time you choose growth over avoidance, you shape a more grounded identity. Every time you complete a hard task, you add to your emotional maturity. Over time, these layers pile up until you become someone who can face life with courage and clarity. A strong personality is not loud. It is not aggressive. It is not trying to impress anyone. A strong personality is calm. It is firm. It is stable. It is built through discipline, not noise. It grows through private decisions, not public declarations. When you choose daily challenges, you build a personality that does not need validation. You gain a sense of inner control. You gain a sense of direction. You gain a sense of quiet strength that shows through your action. Some people believe they need dramatic change to improve their personality, but true strength begins with simple daily choices that you repeat. You do not need to change your whole life at once. You only need to grow a little each day. You only need to say yes to one hard task at a time. Over weeks and months, these actions shape your character. You become steadier. You become more mature. You become more confident. Inner strength also grows when you separate yourself from excuses. Excuses weaken your thinking. They make you feel powerless. A strong personality cannot grow in a mind filled with excuses. When you choose challenge, you silence the excuses. You prove to yourself that you are capable. You show your mind that you are not controlled by fear or laziness. This shift creates a calmer and stronger mental state. Another powerful part of building strength is learning from small failures. When you choose challenge, you will make mistakes. You will struggle. You will fall short. But these moments teach you how to improve. They show you your weaker areas, so you can work on them. Strong people are not strong because life is easy. They are strong because they learn from every experience, instead of hiding from it. There is also emotional strength that grows through challenge. When you face hard situations, you learn how to manage pressure. You learn how to think clearly when you feel stressed. You learn how to stay grounded when your emotions try to take over. This emotional stability becomes a major part of a strong personality.
People trust those who can remain steady during tough times. You already have the ability to build this kind of personality. It does not matter where you start. What matters is the choice you make today. You build inner strength by choosing what challenges you daily. You choose tasks that grow you. You choose habits that raise your standard. You choose work that shapes your future. You choose to become someone who grows through pressure, rather than someone who collapses under it. Start with one challenge today, then another tomorrow, and another the day after. These small steps build your foundation. They shape your character. They form your identity. You will wake up one day and notice that you have become someone stronger. You will feel more control over your life. You will feel more respect for yourself. You will feel more courage in the face of problems. This is how you build a strong personality. You choose challenge daily. You grow through effort. You rise through discipline. You develop an inner strength that stays with you for life.
Chapter 2. Shape your character by fixing your smallest daily habits. Most people think character is built through big moments, but the truth is far more direct. Your character grows from the smallest habits you repeat every single day. These small habits shape how you think, how you feel, how you respond to challenges, and how you carry yourself in front of others. When your habits are weak, your personality becomes unstable. When your habits are strong, your character becomes steady. Many people overlook this because small habits feel ordinary. They feel too simple. But the simple things you repeat become the foundation of the person you are becoming. If you want a stronger personality, you must fix the small habits that quietly shape your life. Every day you have moments that form your character. How you start your morning, how you handle small responsibilities, how you treat your time, how you react to discomfort. These moments might seem harmless, but they influence your mindset. They show your mind what kind of person you are training yourself to be. When you skip tasks that matter, you teach your mind to avoid responsibility. When you finish tasks, even when you feel tired, you teach your mind to trust your discipline. That trust becomes character. People often tell themselves that small habits do not matter. They think they will improve their life when something big happens. They wait for the right opportunity. They wait for a dramatic shift in their situation. But life does not change because of one magical moment. Life changes because you adjust the small actions that guide your day. If you fix these small actions, everything else becomes easier. You gain control. You gain direction. You gain inner strength. These changes do not happen overnight, but they happen steadily. Human psychology responds strongly to consistency. When you repeat a habit, your mind begins to build an identity around it. If you consistently leave tasks unfinished, you start seeing yourself as someone who stops halfway. If you consistently keep promises to yourself, you start seeing yourself as someone who follows through. This is how habits shape your character. Your actions teach your mind who you are. You cannot escape this. Your mind watches everything you do and builds your self-image from it. This is why fixing your smallest habits is powerful. When you fix them, you shift the messages you send to yourself. You tell yourself you are responsible. You tell yourself you have control. You tell yourself you are disciplined. These signals strengthen your character far more than motivational talk. Many people want to feel confident, but they do not fix the habits that break their confidence. They want to feel stronger, but they ignore the actions that weaken them. Confidence is built through behavior, not words. Start by looking at the small habits that drain your strength. Do you wake up late, even when you plan to wake up early? Do you pick up your phone the moment you feel bored? Do you skip important tasks because they feel uncomfortable? Do you leave your environment messy because you think it is not a big deal? These actions might look small, but they influence your mindset. They teach your mind to choose comfort over responsibility. They train your personality to avoid discipline. Fixing these habits does not mean making your life perfect. It means becoming more aware of the small actions that influence your character. For example, when you wake up at the time you set, you send a message to yourself that you control your life. Then you make your bed, you train your mind to finish what you start. When you eat with discipline, you train your mind to respect your body. When you keep your space clean, you train your mind for clarity. Each small act shapes a part of your personality. People often underestimate how much small habits affect their emotional state. When you ignore your basic responsibilities, your mind carries silent stress. You feel irritated. You feel guilty. You feel behind. When you fix small habits, your mind becomes calmer because you feel more in control. You feel lighter. You feel more capable. This emotional stability becomes a part of your character, and people notice it in your presence. Another important part of shaping your character is improving your attention. Your attention is controlled by your habits. If you constantly interrupt your own focus by checking distractions, you weaken your ability to stay present. When you fix this and train yourself to finish tasks without breaks, your mind becomes sharper. This sharpness becomes a personality trait. It shows up in how you speak, how you work, and how you make decisions. Small habits also shape your emotional discipline. For example, when you consistently take a moment to pause before reacting, you build emotional control. When you choose a calm response during small frustrations, you prepare yourself for bigger situations. If you cannot control your reactions in small moments, you will not control them in big moments. Strong emotional discipline is built from tiny choices that you repeat daily. Another habit that shapes character is the way you talk to yourself. Many people criticize themselves all day without realizing how much damage they cause. This negative self-talk weakens your confidence. But you can fix this by changing the small thoughts you allow. Instead of telling yourself you cannot do something, you tell yourself you can improve. Instead of calling yourself lazy, you tell yourself you are learning discipline. These small changes influence your internal world. Your internal world becomes your character. Your environment also influences your habits. If your space is chaotic, your mind becomes restless. If your space is organized, your mind feels supported. This is why fixing small habits like cleaning your desk or arranging your room matter. These actions shape your state of mind even if you do not notice it immediately. They help you feel stable, and that stability affects your behavior. Another key habit is how you manage small time gaps. When you have 10 minutes, do you waste it or use it for something helpful? Successful people use small pockets of time wisely. They read a few pages, they stretch their body, they review their goals. These small actions build a productive personality. You do not need large blocks of time to build discipline. You only need to use your small moments wisely. Fixing small habits also develops your self-awareness. When you pay attention to your daily actions, you learn more about your strengths and weaknesses. You notice patterns you want to change. You notice areas you want to grow. Self-awareness makes it easier to shape your character because you understand what needs adjustment. Many people lack this awareness because they never slow down to look at their habits clearly. Another powerful habit is finishing what you start. When you complete tasks, even small ones, you train your mind to close loops instead of leaving things undone. This reduces stress and builds confidence. A person who finishes things becomes someone others can rely on. This simple habit strengthens your character in a way that few people expect. Building good habits also requires removing the habits that harm you. You might have small habits that look harmless, but slowly weaken your character. Things like speaking negatively, avoiding responsibilities, staying up too late, delaying decisions, or wasting too much time. When you fix these habits, you remove the weight holding you back. You free your mind. You create space for stronger habits to grow.
You also build character through habits that develop your communication. For example, speaking clearly, listening fully, expressing your thoughts without hesitation, being honest, even when it feels uncomfortable. These habits make you more respected. They give your personality strength and stability. When people know you speak with sincerity, they trust you more. Another important habit is checking in with yourself. Asking yourself how you are doing, understanding your emotional state, understanding what you need. Many people ignore themselves until they burn out. When you learn to notice your feelings early, you make better decisions. You act with more balance. This practice strengthens your character because it teaches you to take responsibility for your well-being. Discipline also grows from the way you treat simple instructions. You give yourself. If you tell yourself to read for 10 minutes and you follow through, your mind grows stronger. If you tell yourself to drink water and you do it, you build trust in your own word. These seem small, but they build the foundation of self-leadership. A strong personality is built on respecting your own instruction. Character also grows when you make small improvements instead of chasing perfection. You do not need to change everything in one day. You only need to pick one small habit and improve it. Then another, and another. Over time, each improvement adds to your strength. You become someone with control. You become someone with direction. You become someone with discipline. People often admire those who have strong character, but they forget that this strength comes from small decisions. The decision to wake up early, the decision to speak kindly, the decision to stay focused, the decision to stay calm, the decision to be consistent. These choices accumulate. They create a personality that others respect. They create a self-image that feels solid. You shape your character by fixing your smallest daily habits, because these habits are the roots of your behavior. When the roots are strong, the personality becomes strong. When the roots are weak, the personality collapses under stress. You can build a strong personality by starting today. You can choose one habit you want to improve. You can focus on it for a week. You can repeat it until it becomes natural. Then you move to the next habit. This process never ends, because growth never ends. As you improve your habits, you will notice changes in your mood, your confidence, your behavior, and your self-control. You will feel more stable. You will think more clearly. You will act more intentionally. This is how strong character grows. This is how you build a personality that supports your long-term success. Your daily habits are shaping you, whether you notice it or not. When you fix them, you take control of who you are becoming. You decide the quality of your life. You decide the strength of your character. You decide the kind of person you want to be.
Chapter 3. Train your thoughts to stop negative stories about yourself. Many people live with a voice in their mind that works against them. It tells them they are not good enough, not smart enough, not capable enough, and not worthy of change. That voice becomes a constant background noise in their life, slowly shaping how they see themselves. Most people never challenge it. They accept these negative stories as truth. But these thoughts are not fact. They are old beliefs formed from fear, past experiences, and moments where you felt weak. When you train your thoughts, you take control of the stories you tell yourself. You learn to guide your mind instead of letting it drag you into doubt and insecurity. Negative stories often come from moments where you were judged, rejected, ignored, or misunderstood. These moments leave marks. As you grow older, those marks turn into beliefs. You begin to repeat these beliefs until you see them as your identity. But if you want a strong personality, you must stop letting those old moments decide your worth. Your life will not change until the story in your mind changes. And the good news is, you can choose what you think. You can train your thoughts just like you train a muscle. It takes attention, repetition, and patience, but it transforms your entire life. The first step is noticing the negative story when it starts. Most people run on automatic thinking. They do not catch the moment a negative thought appears. It happens quietly. You make a mistake and instantly think you always fail. You feel nervous and instantly assume something is wrong with you. You compare yourself to someone and instantly say you are behind. These thoughts are fast, but when you slow down and bring awareness to them, you take away their power. Noticing a thought gives you space to question it. Once you notice the thought, you ask yourself where it came from. Was it something someone told you long ago? Was it a bad experience you still carry? Was it fear? Was it insecurity? When you question the thought, you separate it from your identity. You realize it is just a mental habit, not a truth. This simple act of questioning breaks the cycle that keeps negative thinking alive. Training your thoughts also means interrupting the negative story before it grows stronger. For example, when you hear yourself thinking you are failing, you stop and remind yourself that one difficult moment does not define your whole life. When you think you are not worthy, you remind yourself that worth does not depend on perfection. When you think you are slow or late in life, you remind yourself that growth does not follow a single timeline. Interrupting the story weakens it, and the more you interrupt it, the less often it returns. Another important part of training your thoughts is speaking to yourself with the same respect you give theirs. Many people talk to themselves in a way they would never speak to a friend. They use harsh words. They use blame. They use judgment. This kind of inner talk breaks confidence. It breaks self-esteem. It makes you feel small even when you are trying your best. You can train your thoughts by changing the tone you use with yourself. You speak clearly, calmly, and honestly. You remind yourself that mistakes are normal. You remind yourself that growth takes time. You remind yourself that effort counts. A strong personality requires a strong inner voice. Another way to stop negative stories is by grounding yourself in the present moment. Negative thoughts usually come from past pain or future fear. Your mind can create stories based on things that are not even happening right now. When you bring your attention back to where you are and what you are doing, the negative story loses its hold. You focus on your breath. You focus on your surroundings. You focus on the task in front of you. This practice brings clarity. It helps you see that the story is just a thought, not reality. Your thoughts also become stronger or weaker depending on the environment you live in. If you are surrounded by negativity, complaining, or people who constantly judge others, your mind absorbs that atmosphere. Your thoughts reflect what you hear every day. Training your thoughts also means protecting your environment. You may need to create distance from people who drain your energy. You may need to limit the content you consume. You may need more quiet moments, so your mind can reset. A strong environment helps you build a strong inner story. Another key part of training your thoughts is learning to replace negative stories with realistic and supportive ones. You do not replace negative thoughts with empty positive statements. You replace them with truthful and helpful ideas. For example, instead of thinking you cannot learn something, you tell yourself you are capable of improving. Instead of thinking you always fail, you remind yourself that growth is a process. Instead of thinking you are behind, you remind yourself that progress is personal. These replacements teach your mind a healthier way to speak. You also build stronger thinking when you stop comparing yourself to others. Comparison creates negative stories faster than almost anything else. When you compare yourself, you ignore your own path and judge yourself using someone else's timeline. This destroys your confidence. When you train your thoughts, you remind yourself that your life has its own rhythm. You remind yourself that someone else's progress does not take away from yours. You remind yourself that your journey is valid. Comparison fades when you focus more on your growth than on others. Another important practice is learning to forgive yourself. Negative stories often grow from guilt and regret. When you cannot let go of past mistakes, your mind repeats them over and over. This blocks your confidence and stops you from becoming stronger. Forgiving yourself does not mean ignoring your mistakes. It means understanding them, learning from them, and choosing not to punish yourself forever. When you forgive yourself, you free your mind. A free mind can grow. A stuck mind repeats the same story. Training your thoughts also means taking responsibility for your inner world. You cannot control every event in your life, but you can control the meaning you give those events. Two people can face the same situation and tell themselves completely different stories. One person sees failure and stops trying. Another sees feedback and keeps going. The difference lies in how they think. When you take responsibility for your thoughts, you gain control over how you interpret your life. This control builds confidence. It builds resilience. It builds character. Your mind becomes stronger when you practice gratitude. Gratitude shifts your attention from what is missing to what is present. It helps your mind see possibilities instead of problems. When you train yourself to notice good things, even small ones, the negative story weakens. You begin to see life from a clearer and steadier point of view. This stability becomes part of your personality. Another important step is slowing down before reacting. Negative thoughts often lead to emotional reactions that create more problems. When you pause before you respond, you give yourself time to choose a better thought. This pause helps you think clearly. It helps you act from strength instead of fear. Over time, this becomes a habit that shapes your personality into someone steady and thoughtful, rather than someone controlled by emotion. Training your thoughts is also about rewriting the beliefs you have carried for years. Many people grow up hearing they are not enough. They carry these beliefs into adulthood without questioning them. When you rewrite these beliefs, you reshape your identity. You tell yourself you are capable. You tell yourself you are improving. You tell yourself you deserve good things. These new beliefs give your mind a stronger foundation. They help you face life with confidence. To stop negative stories, you also need to recognize the difference between facts and assumptions. Many thoughts are assumptions your mind creates without evidence. When you catch yourself assuming, you remind yourself to stick to facts. This simple shift helps you avoid unnecessary stress. It helps you calm your mind. It helps you stay grounded. You also train your thoughts by practicing patience with yourself. Growth takes time. New habits take time. Changing how you think takes time. When you are patient, you allow yourself to progress without pressure. You give yourself room to learn. A patient mind is a powerful mind because it does not rush, panic, or break easily. Patience strengthens your character. Another part of this training is noticing your progress. Many people grow but never acknowledge it. They achieve things but immediately move to the next challenge. This creates a constant feeling of not being enough. When you take time to recognize your improvements, no matter how small, you build a more positive inner story. You remind yourself that your efforts matter. You remind yourself that you are moving forward. This recognition motivates you to keep improving. You also build stronger thinking by practicing honesty with yourself. You admit when you are wrong. You admit when you are scared. You admit when you need to change. Honest self-reflection helps you stop hiding behind negative stories. It helps you work on your real issues instead of running from them. Honest thinking creates a strong and grounded personality. Your thoughts shape your personality more than any external factor. When you train your mind to stop negative stories, you become more confident, more stable, and more capable. You make decisions with clarity. You handle pressure with calm. You speak with certainty. You live with purpose. This is the power of learning to guide your thought. You become the author of your own inner story. A strong personality starts from the inside. It starts from the thoughts you choose to believe. When you let go of negative stories
and create healthier ones. You give yourself the freedom to grow. You give yourself the chance to become who you truly want to be. You gain control over your mind, your emotions, and your life. This strength becomes your foundation. This strength becomes your identity. This strength becomes the version of you that you show to the world.
Chapter 4. Raise your standards by refusing anything that weakens you. When you raise your standards, you begin to change the way you move through the world. You start noticing the habits, behaviors, and choices that quietly drain your strength. You see the moments where you say yes out of comfort instead of conviction. You see the people who pull you down because they know you haven't drawn a line yet. And you realize something important. Every time you accept something that weakens you, you teach yourself to live below your potential. Real growth begins the day you stop accepting what chips away at your confidence, your focus, and your self-respect. Most people don't lose their strength all at once. They lose it slowly. They lose it in tiny moments where they go against their own standards because it's easier. They let someone talk to them in a way that doesn't feel right, and they say nothing. They let a bad habit stay because it's familiar. They stay in conversations that drain their energy because they don't want to seem rude. They continue old patterns because changing them feels uncomfortable. Bit by bit, they accept things that make them smaller. And every time they do, they send a message to themselves. This is what I deserve. If you want a strong personality, you have to change that message. Strength doesn't appear on its own. It grows when you refuse things that weaken your mind, your time, and your energy. That refusal is not anger and not pride. It is self-respect. It is the decision to say, I'm not living at that level anymore. You don't rise by accident. You rise because you set a higher standard and you protect it. You rise because you stop letting your weaker self negotiate for you. The moment you stop letting the old version of you run your life, you begin to see how much power you've been leaving on the table. Every person has a line where they decide what they will accept. For some people that line is low. They allow disorganization because they say they're too busy. They allow negative people because they're used to them. They allow laziness because they've convinced themselves it doesn't matter, and life responds to that level of acceptance. The quality of your life grows or shrinks depending on the standard you set. When you raise that standard, the world doesn't change first. You do. And once you change, the world adjusts. The first place to raise your standards is in your behavior when no one is watching. This is where many people weaken themselves without realizing it. They say they want discipline, yet they keep breaking the small promises they make to themselves. They say they want focus, yet they keep choosing distractions. They say they want confidence, yet they avoid hard conversations and uncomfortable decisions. A strong personality is built in silence long before the world sees the result. When you refuse the habits that drain you privately, you gain strength publicly. You walk different, you speak different, you feel different because you know you've stopped cheating yourself. The second place to raise your standards is in how you allow others to treat you. Many people accept disrespect because they fear conflict. They accept inconsistency because they hope someone will change. They accept being taken for granted because they don't want to lose anyone. But every time you allow something that hurts your self-respect, you lose a part of yourself. A strong personality is not harsh. It is clear. It does not beg for respect. It communicates firmly, calmly, and consistently that your time, your values, and your peace matter. When you stop allowing behavior that weakens you, people adjust. Those who refuse to adjust simply remove themselves. And that is a gain, not a loss. Another place to raise your standards is in the goals you allow yourself to set. Most people weaken themselves by aiming small. They convince themselves that they don't need much. They lower their goals to avoid disappointment. They limit their dreams because they fear failure. But when you lower your goals, you lower your drive. You lower your curiosity. You lower your hunger. And a weak hunger creates a weak life. You raise your strength when you raise your ambition, not because you want to impress anyone, but because you want to grow into someone you can be proud of. A strong personality comes from a mind that refuses to stay small. You also raise your standards by refusing the excuses that keep you stuck. Excuses weaken your character more than any outside force. They make you feel safe in the moment but empty in the long run. They give you a short break but take away your long-term confidence. When you reject excuses, you become stronger. You start taking responsibility for your choices. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop hiding behind distractions. You realize that change begins the moment you stop letting your excuses guide your decisions. When you hold yourself accountable in the small moments, your personality becomes sharper, clearer, and more grounded. Another thing that weakens many people is emotional chaos. When you allow anger, frustration, jealousy, or insecurity to run your reactions, you drain your strength. You act impulsively. You say things you regret. You lose your balance. But when you raise your emotional standards, you stop reacting to everything. You choose your response. You slow down and think before you act. You decide who deserves your time and who doesn't. This level of emotional control builds a personality that others respect. People feel you're calm. They trust your judgment. They listen when you speak because they sense that you don't get shaken by small things. A strong personality also comes from raising your standards for the environment you allow yourself to live in. The places you spend your time shape your energy. A cluttered environment creates a cluttered mind. A chaotic space creates chaotic thinking. A dull environment creates dull ambition. You strengthen yourself when you choose spaces that support your growth. You begin organizing your surroundings. You create a place where your mind feels clear and ready. You keep what adds value and remove what doesn't. This is not about being perfect. It is about refusing an environment that makes you weaker. You also must raise your standards for the conversations you allow in your life. People discuss many things that weaken their mindset without noticing it. They gossip. They complain. They argue about things that don't matter. They waste hours talking about other people instead of their own path. When you refuse these conversations, you protect your inner world. You protect your focus. You protect your energy. You start spending your time talking about goals, ideas, solutions, improvements, and strategies. This changes your personality more than you can imagine. It becomes easier to stay inspired. It becomes easier to stay disciplined. You feel more alive because you're no longer feeding your mind things that drain it. There's also the standard you set for your own time. Many people allow anyone to interrupt them. They allow every distraction to pull them. They allow every request to become their responsibility. This weakens their identity because it tells their mind that their time is not important. When you raise your standard for how your time is used, you become selective. You stop giving your hours to things that don't move you forward. You stop giving your energy to people who don't value it. You begin structuring your days with intention. You create routines that support your goals. This builds a stronger and more confident personality because you know you're no longer wasting your life. A strong personality also requires raising your standards for self-talk. Many people weaken themselves with the way they speak internally. They criticize themselves harshly. They downplay their progress. They expect little from their future. This inner voice shapes the way they show up. When you raise this standard,
You stop talking to yourself like someone undeserving. You start speaking the truth, that you are capable of improvement, worthy of discipline, and strong enough to grow. This does not mean pretending everything is fine. It means refusing to use language that breaks you down. Another important part of raising your standards is refusing old patterns that no longer fit the person you are becoming. Sometimes your greatest weakness is a past version of yourself that keeps pulling you back. Maybe it's the old lifestyle. Maybe it's the old distraction. Maybe it's people who only know the old you. A strong personality grows when you stop returning to what no longer supports your direction. You stop entertaining old habits. You stop seeking old comfort. You accept that growth requires leaving behind what once felt familiar. When you raise your standards, you will face resistance, both from yourself and from others. People may not understand your new boundaries. Your old habits may pull you back. But this is part of the process. Strength grows through resistance. Every time you choose the harder but better path, you become tougher. Every time you say no to something that weakens you, you add another layer to your character. Every time you stay true to your standards, you build a sense of pride that cannot be taken away. Over time, something remarkable happens. You stop chasing approval. You stop needing validation. You stop explaining yourself. You begin to trust your decisions. You begin to respect yourself more deeply. You begin to feel solid inside. This is what creates a strong personality. Not noise, not ego, not pretending to be something you're not. Strength comes from the quiet discipline of refusing anything that pulls you away from who you want to be. A higher standard changes you. It sharpens your thinking. It improves your behavior. It cleans your environment. It improves your relationships. It strengthens your character. And most importantly, it shapes the way you feel about yourself. When you live by stronger standards, you don't need to tell anyone. They can see it. They can feel it. You walk with more confidence. You speak with more clarity. You move with more purpose. You become someone others look up to. Not because you demand respect, but because you embody it. This is how you build a powerful personality. You decide that anything that weakens you is no longer welcome. You protect your mind, your time, your habits, and your peace. You rise above your past patterns. You step into a higher level of self-respect. And once you choose to live at that level, you never want to go back.
Chapter 5. Grow real courage by doing what you avoid most. Courage doesn't grow in the moments where you feel ready. It grows in the moments where your stomach tightens, your voice becomes quiet, and your mind tries to convince you to wait for a better time. Every person has something they avoid. It might be a conversation they don't want to start, a responsibility they don't want to take, a truth they don't want to face, or a step they keep postponing because it exposes their fear. What most people never understand is that the thing they avoid the most is often the doorway to their next level. When you face what you fear, you build a different relationship with yourself. You begin to prove to your own mind that you are stronger than your hesitation. Most people don't avoid tasks because they're lazy. They avoid them because those tasks make them feel uncertain. They avoid starting something new because they fear being judged. They avoid taking the next step because they fear failing. They avoid setting a real goal because they fear not reaching it. And over time, this avoidance becomes a quiet habit. It becomes so familiar that they don't even question it anymore. They simply walk around the things that challenge them, believing they will deal with them later. But later never comes. Courage comes only when you walk toward what makes you uncomfortable instead of walking around it. You grow courage by facing discomfort before you feel ready. You grow it by entering the situations you normally run from. You grow it by taking action even when your mind is trying to slow you down. When you avoid something, you teach your mind that it can control you with fear. But when you move toward what you avoid, you teach your mind that fear has limits. You show yourself that fear is not a wall, it's a suggestion, and you don't have to follow it. Courage is not loud or dramatic. It doesn't always look like big, heroic moments. Most of the time it happens in small actions that no one sees. It's in the phone call you finally make. It's in the task you stop ignoring. It's in the truth you finally admit to yourself. It's in the decision you've been postponing because you knew it would change your life. This is where courage grows, inside these tiny decisions that challenge who you've been and push you toward who you want to become. Many people weaken their courage without realizing it because they treat fear like a stop sign. They believe discomfort means don't go there. They believe nervousness means step back. But discomfort is not danger. Nervousness is not a warning that you should turn around. These feelings often mean you're stepping out of old patterns, and your mind doesn't know how to handle the unfamiliar. The mind loves routines. It loves safety. It loves what feels predictable. Courage asks you to step outside of that safety. It asks you to act before you feel fully prepared. Courage grows from honesty. When you're honest about what you've been avoiding, you create the first opening for growth. You can't change what you deny. You can't improve what you pretend not to see. If you want to build real courage, you must first admit your fears to yourself. Not in a dramatic way, but in a simple, grounded way. You say, "This makes me uncomfortable, and that's exactly why I need to do it." That level of honesty pushes your mind into a new level of strength. A strong personality is built when you refuse to let fear choose your action. Fear doesn't disappear when you start taking action. It changes shape. At first it feels heavy and intimidating. After you take the first step, it becomes manageable. After you take the second step, it becomes smaller. After you take the third, it becomes less convincing. Courage grows through repetition. The more you act despite fear, the less influence it has over your decisions. One of the biggest reasons people avoid certain tasks is because they imagine dramatic failure. They picture themselves being judged, embarrassed, or rejected. But most of the time, none of that actually happens. What does happen is you grow. You gain new skills. You gain clarity. You gain confidence. And even when something doesn't go perfectly, you learn something valuable. Avoidance keeps you stuck. Action expands you. You become stronger when you choose the things you usually postpone. You strengthen your identity when you approach the tasks that make you uncomfortable. Each time you face what you fear, you build proof. Proof that you can handle difficult situations. Proof that you can make decisions under pressure. Proof that you can stay calm even when your mind wants to panic. This proof becomes the foundation of your courage. It creates a level of self-trust that cannot be faked. When you avoid something for too long, it grows inside your mind. It becomes bigger than it really is. It starts to feel like a mountain when it's only a small hill. But the moment you take action, you reduce the size of that fear. You realize it wasn't as heavy as you imagined. You realize you wasted energy worrying about something that only required a few minutes of courage. This realization transforms the way you see challenges. You start believing in your ability to handle more. You start pushing boundaries that once felt impossible. Courage is also built by stepping away from comfort. Comfort is pleasant, but it doesn't help you grow. Comfort creates repetition. Comfort keeps you where you are. When you live in comfort for too long, your confidence fades. You begin to doubt yourself more. You become hesitant. You become overly cautious. Strength fades without challenge. Growth stops without pressure. Courage rises when you leave comfort behind and enter situations that require effort, focus, and responsibility. Another part of courage comes from accepting that fear will always exist in some form. People think they need to eliminate fear before taking action. But fear is part of the human experience.
Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to move even while fear is present. The quickest way to reduce fear is to take the step you've been postponing. You don't wait for motivation. You don't wait for perfect conditions. You start with what you have, where you are, and who you are right now. You grow courage by proving to yourself that you can survive discomfort. Discomfort is not the enemy. It is the teacher. It shows you where you still need to grow. It shows you the parts of your life where you've been playing small. Once you understand that discomfort is simply a sign that you're improving, you stop avoiding it. You start using it. You start seeing it as fuel instead of a threat. Real courage also requires protecting your focus. When your mind is filled with distractions and noise, fear becomes louder. When you give your attention to too many things, your confidence becomes divided. You strengthen your courage by directing your focus toward one meaningful action at a time. When you complete what you've been avoiding, you create momentum. That momentum carries you into the next task and the one after that. Momentum is one of the strongest tools for building courage, because each small victory increases your belief in yourself. Courage grows in your conversations with yourself. When you avoid something, your mind creates excuses. It tells you the timing isn't right. It tells you the task is too hard. It tells you to wait until you feel confident. But that voice becomes weaker when you challenge it. You say, I hear the fear, but I'm not following it today. This simple shift in inner language changes the way you act. The moment you stop being loyal to your excuses, you become loyal to your potential. A powerful way to build courage is to break down what you avoid into small steps. Most fear comes from seeing a task as too large. When you break it into smaller parts, your mind becomes more willing to begin. Courage grows with progress, not perfection. If you move one step at a time, you build strength without overwhelming yourself. Before you know it, the task you avoided becomes something you can handle without hesitation. Courage also grows when you stop running from responsibility. Many people fear responsibility because it demands maturity. It demands attention. It demands consistency. But responsibility is not a burden. It is a catalyst. It forces you to rise. It forces you to think differently. It forces you to behave like the person you want to become. Once you stop avoiding responsibility, your confidence grows naturally, because you begin to rely on your own decision. Another part of courage is learning to speak up when something matters. Many people avoid difficult conversations because they fear conflict or rejection. But silence in these moments weakens your confidence. You become stronger when you express your truth calmly and clearly. You don't have to be aggressive. You just have to be honest. When you learn to communicate without fear, you build courage that follows you into every area of your life. Courage grows when you stop protecting your comfort and start protecting your growth. Growth requires movement. It requires the willingness to feel unsure. It requires the willingness to enter unfamiliar territory. The moment you stop avoiding the tasks that challenge you, your personality becomes stronger. You walk with more confidence, because you know you've faced the thing you once ran from. You feel lighter because you're no longer carrying the weight of avoidance. Every time you move toward what scares you, you create a new version of yourself, one that is stronger, clearer, and more capable. This version of you doesn't hide from challenges. It confronts them. It learns from them. It grows through them. That is how real courage is built. Not by waiting, not by hoping, but by doing the one thing you've avoided.
Chapter 6. Strengthen your identity by acting the way you respect. Identity is not something you find. It is something you build one action at a time. The way you act shapes the way you see yourself, and the way you see yourself shapes the life you create. When your actions don't match the person you respect, you feel it inside. You feel the conflict. You feel the gap. You feel the quiet frustration that comes from knowing you're capable of more than what you're choosing. But the moment you begin acting in ways that match the person you admire, everything inside you starts to shift. Confidence rises. Clarity increases. Strength becomes natural. You begin to trust yourself more because you're no longer living lower than your own potential. Most people think identity is formed by opinions, labels, or past experiences, but identity is built by repeated behavior. Your daily actions teach your mind who you are. If you act with discipline, your mind sees you as disciplined. If you act with honesty, your mind sees you as honest. If you act with weakness, your mind sees you as weak. You can't lie to yourself through words. You can only shape yourself through consistent behavior. When you act like the person you respect, you naturally become that person. Every human has a version of themselves they admire. It's the version that follows through, the version that shows maturity, the version that handles pressure with calmness, the version that keeps promises, the version that doesn't shrink when things get tough, the version that protects their standard. When you act in alignment with that version, you strengthen your identity. When you act against it, you weaken it. This is why identity is not a mystery, it is a mirror. It reflects everything you repeatedly do. Acting like someone you respect doesn't mean copying another person. It means living according to the values you admire. It means behaving in a way that makes you feel proud when you're alone. It means creating a life where your habits and your character are not fighting each other. Strength grows when your actions support your highest values instead of contradicting them. If you want a stronger identity, start by defining the qualities you respect. You might respect honesty, discipline, kindness, responsibility, courage, patience, and consistency. You might respect people who stay calm under pressure. You might respect people who take ownership of their choices. You might respect people who show maturity in difficult moments. Once you identify the qualities you are, you can begin acting like someone who has them. This is not pretending. This is training. This is building. This is how character is shaped. Your identity gets stronger when you stop acting from impulse and start acting from intention. Impulse makes you choose what feels good now. Intention makes you choose what serves your future. The person you respect is not ruled by impulse. They are guided by purpose. Every time you choose intention over impulse, you strengthen the relationship you have with yourself. You feel more control. You feel more direction. You feel more grounded. Self-respect comes from living in a way that matches your values. If you value honesty but lie, your identity weakens. If you value health but neglect your habits, your identity weakens. If you value growth but avoid challenge, your identity weakens. Identity weakens when your actions point in the opposite direction of your values. But when your actions match your values, your identity becomes solid. You feel aligned. You feel clear. You feel steady. A strong identity grows through accountability. When you take responsibility for your choices, your mind sees you as capable. When you blame others or avoid responsibility, your mind sees you as powerless. Acting like someone you respect means owning your decisions, your habits, and your outcomes. It means refusing to hide behind excuses. Excuses protect comfort, but destroy identity. Responsibility protects identity and destroys weakness. When you act in a way you respect, you begin to build a sense of integrity. Integrity is not about perfection. It's about consistency. It's about showing up in a way that reflects your principles even when no one is watching. This consistency builds inner strength. You start to feel a sense of pride that doesn't need attention or validation. Strong identity is private. It's the quiet conviction you feel when you know you are living by your own standards. You strengthen your identity by doing the right thing, even when it's inconvenient. Many people only do what's right when it's easy, but the moments that test your values are the moments that shape your character. When you act with honesty in a difficult moment, you grow. When you stay disciplined on a tired day, you grow. When you show patience in an annoying situation, You grow. Growth comes from choosing the behavior you respect, not the behavior that feels comfortable. Identity becomes weak when your actions shift with your emotions. When you act based only on how you feel, you become inconsistent. Some days you act strong, other days you collapse. But when your actions come from principles instead of moods, your identity becomes solid. You become reliable. You become stable. You become the kind of person that others trust. And more importantly, the kind of person you trust. Many people struggle with self-respect because they break their own promises. Every time you tell yourself you will do something, and you ignore it, you weaken your identity. The mind keeps score. You cannot build self-trust if you repeatedly act against your own word. Acting like someone you respect means keeping your commitments, even the small ones. Keeping promises to yourself is one of the strongest builders of identity. It tells your mind that you can rely on your own decisions. You strengthen your identity when you choose discipline over convenience. Discipline is not punishment. It is the method through which you build the future you want. When you act disciplined, even in small tasks, you develop a more powerful sense of yourself. You begin to feel more capable. You begin to feel more in control. You begin to feel more prepared for life. Discipline shapes identity because it forces you to behave with intention. A strong identity requires emotional maturity. This means not reacting to everything. It means thinking before you speak. It means evaluating situations before you respond. The person you respect does not collapse when emotions rise. They remain steady. They respond with clarity. They act with purpose. When you adopt this behavior, your identity grows. You start feeling stronger from the inside because you're no longer controlled by your emotion. Another important part of strengthening your identity is recognizing your progress. Many people grow, but never acknowledge it. When you don't recognize your progress, you always feel behind. But when you take a moment to notice how far you've come, you reinforce your new identity. You begin to believe in the change you're creating. Belief strengthens identity because it confirms that your actions are working. Identity also grows when you choose better environments. The person you respect does not place themselves in situations that damage their growth. They avoid influences that pull them backward. They protect their energy. They choose surroundings that help them rise. When you make these choices, your identity becomes clearer because you're shaping your life around who you want to be. You become stronger when you stop acting for approval. The moment you begin acting based on your own values instead of others' opinions, you step into a higher level of identity. You gain freedom. You gain clarity. You gain confidence. Approval becomes a trap when it controls your actions. Respect becomes a force when it guides your action. The person you respect acts with purpose, not with the need to please. Acting like someone you respect also requires honesty with yourself about your weaknesses. Ignoring your weaknesses does not protect your identity. Facing them does. When you accept your flaws and work on them directly, you build authenticity. You create a real foundation. You no longer pretend. You improve. This honesty strengthens your identity more than perfection ever could. Identity grows through repetition. One strong action is not enough. You gain identity when you repeatedly act in alignment with your highest values. Every day you have opportunities to shape your character. Every day you can behave in a way that makes you feel proud. Every day you can choose habits that reflect your standards. Over time, these repeated choices create a version of you that is steady, confident, and reliable. To strengthen your identity, you must consistently ask yourself one simple question. Would I respect this version of me? If the answer is yes, keep going. If the answer is no, adjust immediately. This simple practice brings integrity to your daily life. It removes confusion. It removes hesitation. It removes excuses. It guides you toward the actions that build strength. When you act like the person you respect, life becomes more stable. Your decisions become clearer. Your relationships become healthier. Your mindset becomes stronger.
You stop drifting. You stop doubting. You stop searching for approval. You begin to feel aligned. You begin to feel grounded. You begin to feel like someone who is building a meaningful life. Identity is not given. It is earned. And you earn it by acting every day in a way that reflects the highest version of yourself. Every action becomes a brick. Every habit becomes a wall. Every decision becomes a structure. Over time, you build a solid identity that protects your confidence, guides your choices, and strengthens your future. This is how you strengthen your identity, by consistently acting like someone you respect, even on the days when it feels harder than usual. The behavior builds the belief builds the character, and the character builds the life.
Chapter 7. Control your impulses by pausing before you react emotionally. Most people live their lives reacting before thinking. A loud voice, a harsh word, or a sudden situation triggers an immediate response. You feel tension, frustration, or anger, and without noticing it, you act. These reactions often lead to regret, broken relationships, or missed opportunities. Impulse control is not about suppressing emotion. It is about creating a space between what happens and how you respond. That pause is where strength is built. That pause is where choice exists. The people with strong personalities are not those who never feel anger or fear. They are the people who pause, assess, and respond in a way that aligns with their values. This pause is the secret to emotional mastery and to building a personality that commands respect. Impulse control begins with awareness. You cannot control what you do not notice. Most emotional reactions are automatic. You see something upsetting and immediately react before you even understand your feelings. Your body tenses, your heart races, your mind floods with judgment. Without noticing, you lash out or withdraw. Awareness is the first step because it allows you to recognize when a reaction is about to take over. As soon as you catch the impulse, you create the first opportunity to respond differently. Pausing is a skill that must be practiced consistently. It is not easy at first because your mind is accustomed to reacting immediately. But every time you stop yourself, even for a second, you strengthen the mental muscles that regulate emotion. That small moment of hesitation might feel uncomfortable initially. Your mind wants to act. Your ego wants to prove itself. Your instincts push you forward. But resisting that immediate reaction and pausing even briefly is the start of mastery. Over time, the pause grows longer and your responses become more intentional. The pause allows you to identify the real source of your emotion. Often what triggers you is not the person or situation in front of you. It is old experiences, past disappointments, or unmet expectations. You react not to the moment, but to layers of past hurt. By pausing, you give yourself the chance to separate what is happening now from old patterns. You see clearly what belongs to the present and what belongs to history. That clarity prevents unnecessary reactions that damage your credibility and relationships. During the pause, you gain control over your words. Speaking without thinking is one of the fastest ways to weaken your influence. People who cannot pause often speak in ways they regret. Their words are sharp, defensive, or dismissive. When you pause, you consider the impact of your words. You think about the outcome you want instead of letting your raw emotion dictate your message. That ability transforms interactions. You are no longer a reactor. You become a communicator. You speak with intention and with authority. Impulse control also strengthens decision-making. Emotional reactions are rarely the best choice. Decisions made in anger, fear, or frustration often lead to mistakes. By pausing, you allow rational thought to enter. You assess your options. You weigh consequences. You choose the path that aligns with your long-term goal. The ability to pause before reacting is directly connected to your ability to make smarter, more disciplined choices that enhance your life rather than damage it. The body reacts first, the mind reacts second, and the heart reacts last. Impulses often start as physical sensations, tightness in the chest, tension in the shoulders, or a rush of adrenaline. Recognizing these physical cues signals that a reaction is forming. The pause allows you to breathe, to slow your heart rate, and to ground yourself. Simple practices like taking a few deep breaths, counting to 10, or focusing on your senses create the space you need. That space is where power exists. That space is where you regain control over your emotional response. Emotional triggers are unavoidable. Life is full of situations that will test your patience, challenge your values, or push your buttons. People will insult you, ignore you, or frustrate you. Without impulse control, you hand over your power to the situation. With it, you decide how the situation affects you. You choose whether to escalate, withdraw, or respond calmly. This choice builds resilience. It builds respect from others. It builds trust in yourself. Impulse control also means resisting the urge to act from anger or frustration in relationship. Arguments often escalate because people react immediately without pausing. They speak from emotion and then regret it. But when you pause, even for a few seconds, you allow perspective to enter. You consider the other person's point of view. You evaluate whether your reaction will help or harm the relationship. Over time, this pause creates deeper understanding, stronger communication, and healthier interactions. Developing this skill requires a commitment to self-observation. Notice the moments when your reactions are strongest. Notice the people, situations, or topics that push your buttons. These are your training grounds. Each challenging moment is an opportunity to practice pausing. Each interaction where you resist reacting is a victory. The more you practice, the more natural the pause becomes. Eventually, it is no longer an effort. It becomes your default mode. Another critical aspect of pausing is managing expectations. Many emotional reactions are fueled by the belief that people or situations should act a certain way. When reality does not match expectation, anger and frustration arise. By pausing, you allow yourself to reframe the situation. You remind yourself that you cannot control others, only your reaction. You focus on what is within your power to influence. That mindset reduces the intensity of emotional responses and strengthens self-control. Impulse control strengthens confidence. People who cannot pause often act defensively, react aggressively, or second-guess themselves. People who pause before reacting exhibit calmness and certainty. Others notice this. Respect follows naturally. You become someone who is seen as reliable, steady, and trustworthy. You feel more secure internally because you know your actions are deliberate, not reactive. Confidence and self-respect grow from this deliberate practice. Pausing before reacting also creates mental clarity. Emotional reactions cloud judgment. They distort perception. They amplify stress. But when you pause, your mind has a chance to organize. You consider the facts, separate opinion from reality, and weigh the long-term implications. That clarity allows you to act with precision rather than under pressure. Strong personalities are built on clear thought, not impulsive behavior. This practice also impacts long-term emotional health. Constant reactive behavior creates unnecessary stress. It drains energy and increases anxiety. By learning to pause, you conserve energy and protect your emotional balance. You feel less drained at the end of the day. You sleep better. You think clearer. You live more intentionally. Your mind becomes a tool for growth rather than a battlefield of reactions. Pausing builds patience. Many people confuse patience with passivity. True patience is active control over impulses. It is strength, not surrender. When you pause, you create room for patience. You learn to tolerate frustration without losing composure. You develop endurance.
in situations that once provoked strong emotional reactions. Patience reinforces your identity as someone who is strong, thoughtful, and reliable. Impulse control also affects leadership. People look to those who can manage themselves as a model of behavior. A leader who reacts emotionally loses influence. A leader who pauses gains respect. By controlling impulses, you communicate strength without aggression. You create influence without force. Your words carry weight because they are measured. Your decisions carry authority because they are deliberate. Leadership emerges naturally from mastery over reactions. Finally, impulse control is about freedom. Reacting immediately gives power to circumstances. Pausing returns that power to you. You decide how to feel, how to act, and how to live. You are no longer a passenger in your own life. You are the driver. That freedom becomes the foundation of a strong personality. Others may push, provoke, or test you. How you respond is entirely up to you. That choice defines you. Over time, the consistent practice of pausing before reacting transforms not just your behavior, but your entire life. Relationships improve, stress decreases, decision-making strengthens, confidence grows, identity solidifies. Every moment where you resist impulsive action reinforces the kind of person you are becoming. Strength is built silently in these pauses. Power is created in these choices. Respect is earned through control. Mastering impulses is not instant. It is a daily practice. It is a lifelong skill. Every situation presents an opportunity to pause, breathe, and respond intentionally. Each time you do, you build a stronger, clearer, and more resilient personality. Your mind becomes steady, your actions become deliberate, your life becomes more powerful. Pausing before you react emotionally is not a weakness. It is the foundation of strength, the mark of self-mastery, and the hallmark of a person who commands respect naturally.
Chapter 8. Improve your confidence by showing up even when you fail. Confidence is not something that appears when everything goes perfectly. Real confidence grows in the moments when you show up even though you know failure is possible. It grows when you step into situations that scare you, when you face the possibility of being judged, and when you move forward even though the outcome is uncertain. Many people wait for the perfect moment, for the right conditions, or for the absence of risk before acting. That waiting kills confidence. Showing up despite fear, doubt, or previous failure is what builds a strong sense of self. Every time you take that step, you reinforce to yourself that your value does not depend on immediate success. You learn that confidence is not about never falling. It is about continuing to move forward even after you fall. Most people misunderstand failure. They see it as a reflection of their worth, rather than a natural part of growth. They let past mistakes define who they are instead of teaching them how to improve. When you show up even after failing, you prove to yourself that mistakes are not the end of the story. They are information. They are feedback. They are the raw material for building resilience. Confidence grows when you stop letting the fear of failing prevent action. It grows when you act despite the risk of imperfection. Showing up repeatedly is what strengthens identity. Confidence is not built in isolated moments. It is built in consistency. Every time you choose to participate, to contribute, or to take action despite fear, you accumulate small victories that compound into a stronger sense of self. Even if the outcomes are not what you hoped for, the habit of showing up teaches your mind that you are reliable, capable, and committed. This reliability becomes internal proof of your competence, and competence fuels confidence naturally. Many people shy away from challenges because they are worried about looking weak. They worry about how others perceive them. They worry that failure will make them less than they hope to be. But the people who grow confidence know that perception is secondary. What matters most is the internal proof that comes from action. Showing up when failure is possible sends a message to yourself: I am willing to take responsibility for my growth, regardless of immediate approval. This mindset transforms fear into fuel and hesitation into momentum. Confidence also grows when you embrace the learning process. Every attempt, whether it succeeds or fails, provides clarity. You learn what works. You learn what doesn't. You learn about your strengths and your limitations. Those lessons are invaluable. People who avoid showing up to avoid failure miss the opportunity to collect the insights that create true competence. Real confidence comes from repeated exposure to challenge, not from avoiding it. When you show up after failing, you also build courage. Courage and confidence are intertwined. Courage is the willingness to act despite fear. Confidence is the internal proof that you can handle the results. The first step is always courage. You may feel nervous, uncertain, or anxious, but you take action anyway. Each action strengthens your belief in your ability to face challenges. That belief is the foundation of lasting confidence. Another reason showing up despite failure builds confidence is that it reduces the power of fear. Fear only controls you when you give it authority. Each time you act despite fear, it loses its grip. You begin to trust your ability to handle outcomes. You begin to trust your capacity to respond to setbacks. You begin to see that temporary discomfort does not define your overall value. With this trust comes freedom, the freedom to act without being paralyzed by what could go wrong. Confidence is strengthened when you maintain effort even after embarrassment or disappointment. Life will present situations where you look foolish, make mistakes, or receive criticism. Most people retreat, they hide, they avoid situations where they might fail again. Showing up in these moments is transformative. It demonstrates to yourself that your self-worth is not dictated by what others think. You learn to value your participation, your growth, and your commitment above external validation. This perspective strengthens internal confidence in a way that external recognition never can. Persistence is a critical element of building confidence. Confidence is not a single action. It is a series of actions repeated over time. Showing up consistently, regardless of past failures, accumulates internal evidence that you can handle more than you imagined. Each time you face the discomfort of potential failure and act anyway, your internal narrative shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone who avoids challenges and start seeing yourself as someone who confronts them. That narrative is a powerful source of confidence. Self-awareness also grows through repeated action after failure. By showing up, you observe how you react under pressure, how you handle mistakes, and how you adapt to unexpected results. This awareness provides clarity about your capabilities and areas for improvement. It allows you to make adjustments, learn from experience, and grow strategically. People who avoid showing up rarely gain this level of insight. Without action, confidence cannot deepen because the mind never collects the data it needs to know its own strength. Confidence is further strengthened when you focus on effort rather than outcome. Most people link confidence to success, but outcomes are not fully under your control. Effort, however, is entirely within your power. When you consistently show up and give your best effort, you reinforce the belief that you are committed, capable, and responsible. That belief becomes the backbone of self-confidence. It shifts your focus from worrying about what might go wrong to trusting that you will handle whatever comes. Another way showing up builds confidence is by creating a track record of resilience. Every failure you confront and move through becomes evidence of your durability. You begin to see yourself as someone who can handle setbacks and continue forward. That perception changes your approach to future challenges. You act with steadiness, calmness, and determination. This resilience feeds confidence because it proves over and over that you can endure difficulties and still move forward. Confidence grows when you embrace imperfection. Waiting to feel ready or to be perfect before acting destroys momentum. People who hesitate in pursuit of perfection never develop the internal assurance that comes from experience. By showing up even when failure is likely, you accept imperfection as part of the process. This acceptance frees you from fear of judgment and allows you to act with authenticity. The more you practice this, the more natural confidence becomes. Every step you take, even if it results in failure, builds emotional strength. You learn to tolerate discomfort. You learn to manage anxiety. You learn to navigate criticism without losing composure. Emotional strength is a critical component of confidence because it enables you to act even when fear and uncertainty are present. Confidence is not just mental, it is emotional. It is the ability to remain steady and grounded regardless of external circumstances. Showing up despite failure also improves social confidence. Many people shy away from interactions, conversations, or opportunities because they fear judgment. By participating, even when you stumble or make mistakes, you desensitize yourself to external evaluation. You discover that most failures are temporary, most mistakes are forgivable, and most people are not paying as much attention as you imagine. That realization increases self-assurance in social and professional situations. Confidence deepens when you recognize the cumulative effect of repeated action. One successful attempt may build temporary assurance, but consistent participation builds enduring confidence. Each effort reinforces your competence. Each attempt reduces the intensity of fear. Each time you show up, you add a layer of proof that you are capable of growth, capable of handling challenges, and capable of contributing meaningfully. This layered evidence creates a strong foundation for lasting confidence. Real confidence is also visible to others. When you show up despite the possibility of failure, people notice. They see your commitment, courage, and persistence. They may not notice every action, but they notice consistency and resilience over time. That visibility strengthens your influence and enhances your ability to create impact. Confidence is contagious. When others see you stepping forward despite fear, it inspires them to do the same. Another element of confidence comes from self-compassion. Showing up after failure requires you to treat yourself with patience and understanding. You accept that mistakes happen, that learning is ongoing, and that growth takes time. By being kind to yourself, you reduce internal resistance and build the emotional safety required to continue taking action. Confidence grows in an environment where self-criticism is replaced with constructive reflection. Finally, showing up even when you fail transforms your mindset. You stop seeing yourself as fragile or limited. You begin to see yourself as capable, resilient, and resourceful. You internalize the truth that your value does not depend on flawless performance. You recognize that confidence is a product of action, not circumstance. Each time you face uncertainty and act anyway, you reinforce the belief that you can handle whatever comes next. This mindset shift is the ultimate form of empowerment. By showing up consistently, despite the possibility of failure, you accumulate experience, build emotional strength, develop resilience, improve self-awareness, embrace imperfection, and establish a pattern of persistence. These qualities combine to create confidence that is authentic, durable, and unshakable. It is not dependent on luck, approval, or immediate success. It is a confidence born from action, cultivated through experience, and reinforced every time you face challenges and keep moving forward. Real confidence is built on the foundation of showing up, not avoiding, not waiting, and not shrinking back. It is forged in the moments of failure, strengthened by perseverance, and made visible by consistency. When you commit to showing up, even when you know you might fail, you create a life where your strength, competence, and self-belief become undeniable. Confidence is not the absence of failure. It is the presence of commitment. It is the act of standing tall, even when the world reminds you that falling is possible.
And every time you take that step, you grow stronger, steadier, and more capable than ever before.
Chapter 9. Protect your self-worth by saying no when needed. Self-worth is the foundation of a strong personality, and protecting it requires courage, clarity, and consistent action. Many people give away their value without realizing it. They say yes to things that drain their energy, compromise their standards, or distract them from their goals. Saying yes when you should say no gradually erodes confidence, respect, and identity. Protecting self-worth begins with understanding that every agreement you make is a reflection of what you consider acceptable in your life. When you say no to what diminishes your energy, focus, or values, you create space to invest in what truly matters. Boundaries are not selfish. They are the practical framework through which your life gains structure, integrity, and strength. Saying no is not just a refusal. It is a declaration that you respect yourself, your time, and your potential. Many people struggle to say no because they fear rejection, confrontation, or disappointing others. They prioritize temporary comfort over long-term growth. They agree to tasks, favors, or demands that leave them depleted. Over time, this habit weakens their identity. They lose clarity about their priorities. They compromise on standards that once defined them. The moment you learn to say no when needed, you reclaim control over your life. You start aligning your actions with your principles instead of external pressure. Each no reinforces the belief that your life and your energy have boundaries that are worth protecting. Self-worth is deeply tied to choice. Every time you choose to prioritize someone else's agenda at the expense of your own values, you erode the inner sense of respect. You may feel temporary relief by avoiding conflict, but the cost is long-term erosion of identity and confidence. Protecting self-worth means recognizing that your energy is finite. Your focus is valuable. Your time is limited. By refusing to allow every demand or expectation to control your life, you strengthen the internal authority that determines how you live and who you become. Saying no is not easy at first because your mind and your emotions resist it. Guilt, fear, or anxiety may arise when you refuse requests or step back from situations that compromise your standards. These feelings are natural. They indicate that you are breaking patterns of people-pleasing or overextension. Each time you overcome the resistance and assert your boundaries, you train yourself to trust your judgment. Your self-worth grows not through permission from others, but through consistent internal alignment between action and value. People often confuse saying no with being unhelpful or uncaring. Protecting self-worth is not about rejecting others arbitrarily. It is about evaluating requests and deciding whether agreeing aligns with your priorities and standards. It is about discerning where your efforts will have meaningful impact versus where compliance will only drain your energy. This discernment strengthens your sense of self and builds a reputation of reliability for what truly matters. Saying no strategically creates clarity and focus in your life, which is far more powerful than spreading yourself too thin. Saying no also protects your mental and emotional health. Overcommitting leads to stress, fatigue, and resentment. It clouds judgment and reduces your ability to make wise decisions. People who cannot say no often find themselves exhausted, anxious, and frustrated because their energy is consumed by obligations that are not theirs to bear. By asserting boundaries, you maintain a clear mind, steady emotions, and stronger resilience. Protecting self-worth is inseparable from protecting mental clarity and emotional balance. Confidence grows when you realize that refusal does not diminish your value. Many fear that saying no will cause rejection or anger. In reality, saying no signals self-respect. It communicates that you value your priorities and have the discipline to honor them. Over time, people respect you more because they understand that your yes carries weight and intention. When your affirmatives are grounded in choice rather than obligation, your influence becomes stronger. Saying no becomes a tool for strengthening credibility, authority, and personal power. Self-worth is also reinforced when you eliminate guilt associated with refusal. People often accept tasks or responsibilities they do not want simply to avoid feeling guilty. This mindset diminishes their internal sense of integrity. Guilt is a sign that you are sacrificing yourself unnecessarily. By learning to separate genuine responsibility from imposed obligation, you remove the psychological chains that weaken self-respect. Saying no without guilt builds clarity in decision-making and fortifies the mental boundaries that protect who you are. Learning to say no begins with clarity about your values and goals. If you know what matters most, it becomes easier to recognize what does not deserve your attention. Every request, demand, or invitation can be measured against your standard. If it aligns with your values, you can say yes confidently. If it does not, you can refuse decisively. This clarity transforms the act of saying no from a struggle into a natural reflection of who you are. Your life becomes organized around meaningful priorities rather than scattered by external pressures. Saying no also trains others to respect your boundaries. People respond to consistent behavior. If you habitually overextend, others will assume your time and energy are unlimited. If you consistently assert boundaries, people learn where your limits are. They stop making unreasonable demands and start valuing your contributions. Your no becomes a statement of authority over your life. It communicates to others that you are deliberate, disciplined, and grounded in self-respect. Self-worth is strengthened when you recognize the difference between urgent and important. Many people say yes to urgent demands that do not align with their long-term goal. They react to pressure instead of acting with intention. Saying no allows you to protect what is truly important. It gives you the freedom to invest in actions, relationships, and opportunities that contribute to growth. Each refusal is an investment in your personal development and the future you want to create. Saying no requires honesty with yourself and others. It means acknowledging your limits without excuse or apology. It means taking responsibility for your choices. It means communicating clearly without over-explaining or defending. When you act with honesty and assertiveness, your self-worth is reinforced. You stop bending to external pressures and begin living according to your principles. This integrity creates internal peace and external respect simultaneously. Protecting self-worth also involves choosing carefully where you expend energy. Some relationships, projects, or environments are draining, toxic, or misaligned with your growth. Saying no to these distractions is not a rejection of people or opportunities. It is an affirmation of your commitment to your path. It signals that you are selective, intentional, and unwilling to dilute your potential. Protecting self-worth in this way builds resilience and allows you to conserve your energy for meaningful endeavors. Saying no consistently also strengthens emotional independence. Many people tie their value to pleasing others or gaining approval. This reliance creates vulnerability and weakens identity. By prioritizing your standards and refusing what undermines them, you cultivate internal validation. You stop seeking constant approval and start trusting your judgment. This independence builds confidence, focus, and emotional strength that cannot be shaken by external pressures. Another important aspect of protecting self-worth is timing. Saying no is often about recognizing when to act and when to hold back. Impulsive yeses erode self-respect because they disregard your priorities. Measured no's create authority and control over your own life. Timing ensures that your actions are deliberate rather than reactive. Each refusal, delivered at the right moment, communicates clarity and self-possession. Saying no also improves the quality of your yeses. When you protect your boundaries, the things you commit to receive your full energy, attention, and effort. Your contributions are meaningful, intentional, and effective. People notice the difference.
Your actions carry weight. By saying no to what is secondary or draining, you elevate everything you say yes to. Protecting self-worth thus enhances not only your life, but also your impact on others. Finally, protecting self-worth is a lifelong practice. It requires constant attention, reflection, and courage. Every day presents choices that either reinforce your value or weaken it. Saying no when needed becomes a habit that shapes identity, strengthens confidence, and builds resilience. Each no is a step toward a stronger personality. It is proof that you respect yourself enough to guard your time, energy, and principles. This deliberate protection of self-worth creates a life where your character, confidence, and influence are undeniable. By consistently saying no when necessary, you establish clear boundaries, reinforce your values, preserve energy, maintain emotional stability, and cultivate respect from yourself and others. Every refusal strengthens your internal authority, clarifies your priorities, and solidifies your sense of self. Protecting your self-worth is not just an action. It is a statement about the kind of life you are committed to building and the person you are determined to become.
Chapter 10. Upgrade your mindset by learning from every uncomfortable moment. Growth does not happen in comfort. It happens when you face situations that challenge you, force you to think differently, and push you beyond what feels safe or easy. Every uncomfortable moment is a lesson waiting to be understood. These moments expose weaknesses, reveal hidden patterns, and highlight areas that require improvement. People often try to avoid discomfort because it is unpleasant, inconvenient, or emotionally taxing. Avoidance creates stagnation. It keeps the mind small, limits perspective, and prevents the development of resilience. Upgrading your mindset requires a conscious decision to step into discomfort, observe what it teaches, and apply the lessons to improve your life. Every challenge, every awkward interaction, every failure, and every difficulty contains insights that can transform how you think, feel, and act if you are willing to pay attention. The first step in learning from discomfort is acknowledgement. It is easy to dismiss uncomfortable feelings, rationalize away difficult situations, or blame others for your struggles. True growth begins when you stop denying the lesson hidden within the challenge. You notice it, accept it, and commit to understanding it. Acknowledgement allows the mind to shift from resistance to reflection. It transforms suffering into opportunity. Without acknowledgement, discomfort only becomes a source of stress, frustration, or fear. With acknowledgement, it becomes a tool for upgrading your thinking and strengthening your character. Self-awareness grows in moments of unease. When something makes you uncomfortable, it often reveals your blind spot. You notice patterns of thought, emotional reactions, and habitual behaviors that have been operating beneath your conscious awareness. This is valuable information. Most people ignore it, and as a result, they repeat mistakes, get caught in negative cycles, and feel powerless in similar situations. Learning from discomfort means observing yourself without judgment, understanding why you feel or act the way you do, and determining what can be adjusted to serve your growth. Self-awareness is the foundation of a resilient mindset because it allows you to make deliberate choices instead of reacting automatically. Another critical element of upgrading your mindset is reframing challenges as opportunities. Uncomfortable situations often feel threatening, unfair, or overwhelming. That perception increases stress and resistance. By shifting your perspective, you see discomfort as a signal that growth is possible. Each awkward interaction, each difficult decision, each failure is a chance to expand your understanding, improve your skills, and strengthen your character. Reframing does not minimize the difficulty, but it redirects energy from resistance to constructive action. People who thrive do not eliminate discomfort, they learn to extract value from it. Resilience develops when you endure challenges and extract lessons from them. Life is unpredictable, and circumstances will not always align with your desire. When you embrace uncomfortable moments and use them as learning experiences, you train yourself to respond rather than react. You learn to manage stress, navigate uncertainty, and maintain composure under pressure. Each time you face a situation that tests you and you emerge with insight, your mindset upgrades. You become stronger, more flexible, and more capable of handling future obstacles without panic or self-doubt. Emotional regulation is another key outcome of learning from discomfort. Uncomfortable situations often provoke strong emotions such as frustration, fear, or anger. The typical response is to avoid, suppress, or act impulsive. Mindset growth requires a different approach. Noticing the emotion, understanding its source, and choosing a response that aligns with your long-term goals. This ability to manage emotional reactions builds stability, focus, and confidence. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstances. Instead, you become intentional in your behavior, guided by insight rather than impulse. Discomfort also provides feedback about your limitations. It shows where skills, knowledge, or habits are insufficient. Many people interpret this feedback as failure or inadequacy and shut down. Those with an upgraded mindset see it as information. They ask themselves, what can I learn here? What can I improve? What behavior or perspective needs adjustment? By viewing every uncomfortable moment as a lesson, you create a habit of continuous improvement. You stop fearing shortcomings and start using them as stepping stones toward competence and mastery. Decision-making improves through discomfort. When you face challenging situations that make you uneasy, you are forced to think critically, evaluate options, and make choices without guarantee. Each time you navigate an uncomfortable moment, your judgment sharpens. You learn to weigh consequences, consider different perspectives, and act with foresight. People who avoid difficulty miss these opportunities to refine their decision-making skills. Upgrading your mindset requires recognizing that challenges are classrooms, and every decision you make under pressure is a lesson in strategy and wisdom. Learning from discomfort strengthens courage. Facing situations that scare, confuse, or frustrate you builds confidence in your capacity to handle adversity. Many people avoid experiences that feel risky or demanding, which limits personal growth. By deliberately engaging with discomfort, you prove to yourself that you can tolerate tension, uncertainty, and criticism. This reinforces the belief that you are capable, resilient, and resourceful. Courage and mindset are intertwined because the willingness to confront discomfort directly impacts your ability to think clearly, act effectively, and grow consistently. Reflection is an essential part of upgrading your mindset through discomfort. After facing a challenging moment, taking time to reflect allows you to extract insights and apply them. Reflection is not about ruminating or dwelling on negative experiences. It is about asking questions. What did this teach me? How could I respond differently? What patterns are emerging? How can I use this experience to improve? These reflections create mental models that guide future behavior, ensuring that each uncomfortable moment contributes to long-term growth rather than being forgotten or wasted. Adaptability is cultivated through exposure to discomfort. Life rarely unfolds according to plan, and circumstances often require flexibility. By encountering situations that push your boundaries, you train yourself to adjust, innovate, and remain effective under changing conditions. People who avoid discomfort remain rigid, unprepared, and dependent on ideal circumstances. Those who learn from every uncomfortable moment develop a mindset that thrives in complexity. Flexibility becomes second nature because you have practiced responding intelligently under pressure rather than reacting impulsively or freezing. Patience also emerges from learning through discomfort.
Growth rarely occurs instantly, and progress is often slow and uneven. Uncomfortable moments highlight the need for patience. They show that results require persistence and repeated effort. Upgrading your mindset involves recognizing that immediate satisfaction is not always possible, and that the lessons embedded in difficulty require time to integrate. Patience allows you to maintain focus, reduce frustration, and continue applying insights consistently until lasting change occurs. Self-discipline strengthens when you use discomfort as a learning tool. Many uncomfortable situations tempt you to give up, avoid responsibility, or escape. By choosing to stay engaged, to observe, and to learn, you reinforce self-control and persistence. Every moment of resisted avoidance, every effort to remain present and proactive, trains your mind to prioritize long-term growth over temporary relief. Discipline becomes a natural response to challenge because your mindset has been conditioned to value insight and improvement over comfort. Another aspect of upgrading your mindset is emotional intelligence. Discomfort often arises from interactions with others that are difficult, tense, or misaligned. By observing your reactions, listening carefully, and interpreting the underlying dynamics, you develop a deeper understanding of human behavior. You learn to respond rather than react. You recognize patterns in your own behavior and the behavior of others. Emotional intelligence built through discomfort strengthens relationships, communication, and influence, all of which are key components of a strong personality. Resilience also grows because discomfort teaches perspective. Most uncomfortable moments are temporary, yet they often feel permanent in the heat of emotion. Learning to step back, evaluate the situation objectively, and extract the lesson prevents you from overreacting or feeling powerless. Perspective allows you to see challenges as opportunities rather than threats. Each encounter with difficulty becomes a practice session in maintaining clarity, calmness, and forward momentum. Mindset upgrades when you consistently interpret discomfort as a teacher rather than an obstacle. Uncomfortable moments reveal hidden strengths. When faced with pressure, adversity, or uncertainty, you often discover capabilities you didn't realize you had. You learn that you are more patient, resourceful, disciplined, or resilient than previously believed. These realizations enhance self-confidence and motivate continued growth. By actively seeking lessons in discomfort, you expose yourself to opportunities to uncover latent potential, gradually transforming your mindset into one that is expansive, empowered, and solution-oriented. Taking responsibility for your growth in discomfort reinforces personal power. It is tempting to blame circumstances, people, or bad luck for challenges. This mindset keeps you passive and reactive. By acknowledging that every difficult moment contains lessons you can choose to learn, you reclaim agency. You see yourself as the author of your response, the architect of your growth, and the driver of your future. Mindset upgrades when responsibility replaces blame and action replaces victimhood. Finally, integrating lessons from uncomfortable moments builds wisdom. Each challenge teaches a principle, reveals a pattern, or highlights a truth about yourself, others, or the world. Over time, these lessons accumulate into practical knowledge and insight that guide decision-making, relationships, and life strategy. Wisdom is not theoretical. It is earned through experience and reflection. By committing to learning from every uncomfortable situation, you transform tension into understanding, struggle into skill, and difficulty into a roadmap for continuous improvement. Upgrading your mindset by learning from every uncomfortable moment requires awareness, reflection, courage, patience, self-discipline, emotional intelligence, adaptability, and responsibility. It requires seeing challenges as teachers, analyzing your reactions, applying insights consistently, and using every difficulty as fuel for growth. This approach transforms fear into learning, mistakes into guidance, and challenges into stepping stones. Your mind becomes sharper, your character stronger, your judgment clearer, and your ability to navigate life with confidence and resilience grows exponentially. The habit of extracting lessons from discomfort ultimately defines the strength, clarity, and adaptability of your personality, creating a life built on insight, action, and unstoppable growth.